Hi, I'm Sam Witte, and this is my video board for Tech and Society over Chapter 4, which is space exploration. Alright, so to start this off, we're going to talk about previous NASA projects, Mercury, Gemini, Apollo, all those oldie but goldies, take you back a little bit. So, and what we've learned from these missions and such. Um, Learn through failure, first of all, sometimes. I know some of these are failed missions. Obviously, some of them blew up before they even made it to space, and some didn't even get to their destination, had to circle around, come back to Earth. But the important thing is you learn from your mistakes, I guess, is what NASA was trying to teach everybody. So, but then again, you also have to celebrate your victories, and there was a lot of great stuff that came out, not through failures, but through just doing it right the first time, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And they did a lot of great things between beating Russia to the moon and everything, even though Russia was ahead for most of the time, the USSR. We were second to them in a lot of things, including putting probes into space, rockets, all that jazz. But we ended up putting first men on the moon before they did, so that was a victory for us, obviously. Then we furthered it, and after the collapse of the USSR and Russia became their own country, and all that jazz, we started an international space station. Now there's 16 countries that are helped to incorporate and build this giant space station outside of Earth's orbit, and it's kind of cool. It's just something interesting. So the main countries are China, the U.S., Russia, I think, and then I know India is part of it, Japan's part of it, I believe, too. A couple other countries, a lot in Europe, so about 10 European countries or so. There's been a lot of advancement, I'd say, in the past 30, 40 years into space exploration, and it's kind of crazy that, how far we've come, how far our telescopes can see, between Hubble and all that, and what they're finding out every day, how there's thousands of planets outside our solar system that we can't see with our naked eye, obviously, but with the help of telescopes, it's there, and we have the ability to further our knowledge, I guess, of space, which is very interesting. So these videos and these articles that I read, very interesting as well, I guess. Talked about a lot of rovers and satellites, probes, whatever you want to call them, that have surpassed their life expectancy in space. One of them is Opportunity, which is a Mars rover. That was one of the first ones they talked about. It's outlived its life expectancy by like 14 years or something like that, I think is what they said. Still roaming Mars's red dirt planet, and finding out new things every day. How Mars used to be full of water, some salty, some fresh. It had lakes and oceans, kind of like the Earth does. All of that jazz. Juno, which was a satellite that orbited Jupiter, and is still orbiting Jupiter, actually. And what I thought was kind of interesting is after something broke on it, and they're literally using sun particles or rays of light to focus this satellite. No, that's a different satellite. Oh well, got the name mixed up. But Juno's lost my train of thought. Juno's parked right outside of Jupiter, and it is taking pictures and videos of the planet and sending it back to Earth, and we're finding new things out about this gaseous planet and all this jazz and what comes from it and what comes out, and it's just new things about the planets we're always learning. Is kind of interesting. The Voyager 1 and 2 observed the planets on the outer brinks of our solar system, which was kind of cool. They visited the last 4. So then one got sent just kind of into BFE to go monitor that, and the other one went to the last 2 planets and taking pictures and collecting data for us and our researchers back in the good old earthly state we are in, to figure more things out. And then, let's see, we had SpaceX, which is a company started by a billionaire who is sending himself and artists, of all people, artists, musicians, dancers, fashion designers, architects, all that, painters, photographers, it's going to be him and probably about 10 to 12 people other than him going. Hopefully in the next couple of years, what they're saying, they're going to start test runs. And he wants to go to the moon. He was not actually landing on the moon, but he is going to make a circular orbit around the moon. They'll be in the outer space for about a week, I believe, is what I read, and what the video said, which is crazy. The first civilian-funded lunar voyage is also something crazy that found out. And they're using the BFR, which is the Big Falcon rocket. And they're going to put a shuttle on the end of this rocket and just launch her straight up at the moon. They're going to use the moon's gravity, slingshot back around to Earth's orbit. So that's how that's going to work. Kind of interesting. Where are we now? The 2 articles that I got from the Wall Street Journal. One is about India and their space program, and is more of a failure than anything. It's not what their prime minister thinks. He thinks he's not disappointed at all. India lost control or lost contact with the probe that they were like moments before it was literally about to touch down on the moon. They lost contact with it this last Saturday, actually. And they're the 4th country besides the United States, Russia, the USSR, or whatever, and China to land a probe or something on the moon. So that's a unique accomplishment for India in itself. Like I said, the Prime Minister said he was not disappointed with what has happened, and they are continuing their research and continuing to move forward with their space program, which good for them. I guess I'm entertained with their encouragement. And then the next article I read was the first female space tourist. She was in space for about a little over 2 weeks, I believe. I think it was 12 or 14 days, something like that. She's an Iranian-born computer engineer, and her and her family funded a $10 million project for the first reusable manned spacecraft that she is hoping to use to make space tourism an actual thing, like going up there on a regular basis, which would be unique, very unique. And if I had a chance to do it, I would, because space is the final frontier, and that is something you can't take away from somebody. All the astronauts that have been in space, that's something they'll have forever, and yeah, it's pretty admirable, I guess, is what I was going for with that. And then back to the SpaceX thing with the BFR, Big Falcon rocket. They're hoping to set up refueling station possibly on Mars, and that way you could just planet hop, hypothetically speaking. You could planet hop, or if we ever made it to Mars, you could planet hop from Mars to the next planet, to the next planet, to the next planet, and just set up fuel stations and stuff like that on each planet, which I thought was pretty cool. And obviously we are years away from that. But I give them credit for imagination. So that is my reflection and what I've learned about space exploration. I hope you enjoyed this video.